Dit is Argezoog Radio.
Een andere kijk op de wereld.
You're listening to Pateo Radio.
Thank you for listening to Pateo Radio, brought to you live from the Netherlands. My name is Johan Oldekamp and I'll be the host of this show. We have a special guest today coming from Cleveland, Ohio, and he is both a numerologist as a truth seeker. Please welcome to the show, Gary. Hello, Gary. Are you there?
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for joining us.
No problem.
You're mostly known as Gary the Numbers Guy. I've Googled a little bit about you, Gary, but you're quite a popular analyst in the United States.
I won't say popular. Most people don't even know what the hell numerology is, but of the people who do know what numerology, astrology, the New World Order, and all that other stuff is, I'm sure they heard my name a few times.
Okay. Yeah, well, you have a very big success with explaining the behavior or the performances by the athletes. Can you share a little bit about that?
I'm going to be all honest with you. It's child's play.
It's child's play. Yeah.
It's child's play to me. You know what? The only reason I talk about sports numerology is because about 6 years ago, I had the crazy idea that if I actually helped pro franchise, whether it be basketball, football, or baseball, win a championship, using numerology, maybe people would listen. But, what can I tell you? The people who run the teams are as dumb as the politicians. And, it's absolutely amazing. I can call injuries. I can not only predict with a great success rate, I would say over 70-80%, of when a player is going to be injured, and these people do not want to listen. So, it is what it is.
I feel a little frustration there, Gary.
Well, it's not frustration. It's just like I'm just in the utter stupidity that people have. If you want to win, you have to look at every avenue. You have to leave. You can't leave any stone unturned. So if you basically, you got to look outside the box sometimes. Let's face it. The two best athletes in American history, Jim Brown in football and Michael Jordan in basketball, both are born on the same day, 2/17. One is born in 1936, the other one's born in 1963. So all you're doing is switching the 3 and the 6. What is so difficult for people to understand this? I've given them numerous examples. I've been on Yahoo Sports here in America plenty of times because I predicted injuries. I was correct, and people don't want to listen. I can't do anything about it, man. No, you can't. You can only bring the horse to water. You can't make it drink.
No, that's true. But can we maybe find a reason why they cannot understand it? I also have the same difficulty in trying to reach out to a lot of people here in this country. But I think it's the idea of coincidence.
I don't think it's coincidence. I think it's stupidity.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is people think in coincidence, and they think that every example you give must be coincidence. They don't have any clue that there's something hidden and underneath dynamics, and they fail to see that, and that's why you can't reach out to them. That's at least my conclusion.
Last year, my local football team here, they drafted the guy who was born 4/7/1988. I said the guy was going to be injury prone his whole career. A couple of days ago, the guy busted his pectoral muscle. He's going to be out for the whole year. Why? He's born on the 7th. There's actual history that people born on the 7th, 16th, 25th, or anyone who adds up to a 7 in total. Example, say someone's born 1/1/2003. That's going to add up to a 7. So anyone with those type of birthdays, they're going to be very susceptible to injuries. Strong mind, weak body, yin yang. It's very easy to see. I can go down a list of basketball, football, and baseball players who are born on the 7th, 16th, and 25th, or who even wear the jersey numbers 7, 16, 25, 34, 52. That's not good because it's going to basically, the vibrational energy around that number is going to break down the body. That's not good for sports. It's good for thinking. It's good for scientists. It's good for mathematicians, but not good for athletes because their bodies break down. It is what it is. Stephen Hawking, the smartest man who they say, at least the smartest man on earth, he's born 1/8/1942. You add everything up, 1/8/1942, adds it to 25, 25 is 7. He's smart as hell, right? But he's in a wheelchair. It's yin-yang. People don't understand the difference. If people are born on a certain day, it's just mind-boggling to me how you can give these athletes here in America 50, 60, 70 million hour contracts, and here I'm coming with the information. This guy's going to be injury prone. Don't give this guy the contract because he's going to be injured, and they still do it, and then the guy gets injured, and then everything I say is a coincidence. It's insane. It's, but in all honesty, sports is just sports. I honestly try to go there because I think 70 to 40% of the Americans, at least in this country, live, breathe, and die with that stuff. So I figured I can dumb down the numerology and get people interested in it. But in all honesty, there's a lot more important stuff to talk about than sports. You can look at politics, the stock market. It's always the same with the birthdays. Like for instance, Bill Clinton was known as a socialist president. Bill Clinton is born 8/19. He's a Leo. Barack Obama is a socialist president. He's born 8/4. He's a Leo. If you go throughout time, modern time, Napoleon was the first modern-day socialist. He took over Europe in the 1800s. He was a Leo. Fidel Castro in Cuba, he's a communist. He's a Leo. Hugo Chavez in Cuba, born 7/28. He's a communist. He's a Leo. And the guy who just took over France, the new president over there, I forgot his name, but he's born 8/12. I'm good with numbers, not good with names. And he's a Leo too, and he's a socialist. You could see just by certain people's birthdays which way politically they're going to lean. It's very simple. I'm not saying it's 100%, but 90% of people who are born in the time of the Leo, they're going to be socialists. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's flabbergasting to me, Gary, but it resonates. Maybe for the listeners, maybe can make it a little bit more simpler. Maybe we can start with the number 5. Today, this year is a 5 year, 2012. When you add up all the numbers, is 5, and 5 is the number for change, for transformation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you explain a little bit about the essence of the number 5, the numerological value of 5?
Well, the essence of the number 5 basically is change. That's basically, when it comes to the essence of the number, it's very, very open-minded. And when you look at the shape of the 5, it's open on both sides. It's unlike any other number. And then again, if you look again at the order of the 5, it's right in the middle through the 1 to 9. So obviously it has a very, very open-minded structure. 5s will try anything once. They're the daredevils in life. 5s learn very quickly, but they don't always retain all the information they learn. That's the little thing about 5s. They're good at learning. They're quick at learning it, but they don't always retain the information in one ear out the other sometimes. People who are 5s, especially the women, are extremely good looking. A lot of the best looking women in the world, Beyonce, Knowles, Angelina Jolie, they're 5 life paths. So, if a 5 life path is good looking, that's nothing special. That's just like someone being born on the 28th and being rich. That's a number of wealth. People who are 5s, they care a good deal about their health. People who are 5s are also, they need a lot of sleep in life. They need to regenerate a lot. Sometimes their immune systems can be a little bit weaker than others. It's the essence of the 5 is basically change. Only constant in life for a 5 is change. Most people who are born on the 5th, 14th, 23rd, or 5 life paths are foreigners in different lands. A lot of people I've noticed who are foreigners in America are born on the 5th, 14th, 23rd. So it's definitely a number of change. A lot of people with that number are definitely going to be traveling a good deal in their life. So, those are basically the basics of the 5. The 5 also stands for life and death.
Exactly. Yeah. In your analysis, Gary, you use both the life path number as the dates, the first start of
the life path. the life path is by far the most important number, and the second most important number, in my humble opinion, is the day you're born on.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, because that's the examples you gave. Okay. And what does it mean for this year? What do you expect this year to happen?
I can definitely, like, for instance, a lot of ups and downs in the market. There's going to be a lot of fear out there. Fives like to fight. The top fighter in the world today, Floyd Mayweather, he's a 5 life path. He's never lost a fight. So fives, there's always confrontation. They're not the diplomatic types. So you can expect some confrontation in the world, whether it be with the British and the Falkland Islands, whether it be with India and Pakistan, or with America, Iran, and Israel. There's going to be some conflict this year before the year's over. As I expected, the Dow Jones Industrial Average started taking a hit this month. At the very beginning of the month, it was at 13,300. Now it's already down 500 points. So throughout the year, the Dow was going up, and then the 5-month hit, and then the change kicked in. So now it started going down. It would have been the exact opposite. Say the Dow was going down for the whole year. Then when the 5-month kicked in, and would have been going up. You basically can. It's a change.
Yeah, it's a pity that 5 and 2012 was not on a market day. It was on a Saturday, so maybe we would have seen a greater dip on that particular day in this month.
Oh, I think the greatest dips happen whenever it's 11 days. That's by far proven. For instance, the stock market crash that caused the Great Depression happened on 10/29/1929, happened on the 29th, 2 and 9 is 11, and the biggest points loss in stock market history happened on 9/29/2008 when the market fell 777 points. So again, whenever you have that 11, the 29, which I think financially the 29 is actually worse than the 11th. You have a lot of issues financially with the stock market, with banks. I mean, me and you both know, there's going to be a day very soon within the next 18 months where the bank's going to start collapsing. It's coming.
I know it's coming. In Europe, there's a lot of instability now because Greece is probably stepping out of the euro, and that's
more like they're to be pushed out the euro.
Yeah, you can look at it from different ways, but I think the population in Greece really is fed up with the structures and the rules from the center of the European Union, Brussels.
My opinion on Greek, before I go into the numerology of it, is I think Greek was an experiment to see how far they could push the people without the police and the military actually starting to join the people. They've taken the Greek. I mean, the average people in Greece have lost about 40 to 60% of their value of their income, and they're struggling right now. And I think that Greece was one of the smaller countries in the EU. I think it's about 2% of the whole European economy. So what I think happened there, and you can thank our buddies at Goldman Sachs for it, is I think it was an experiment to see how far they can push the people before they take it, on a global scale, the austerity.
That's an interesting view, Gary. That's very interesting because it definitely is in line with what has happened. Because I gave a training recently, and one of my participants lives in Greece, and she told me firsthand how things are going. And it's in fact they try to push it as far as possible. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's just an experiment to see how far the powers that try to be.
Another thing is, continue. I don't understand how the people in Greece aren't going after Goldman Sachs, because it's very obvious Goldman Sachs is at fault here. Goldman Sachs was hired, or they basically offered their services to the Greek government right before they joined the euro so they could hide all their debt. And then at the point where all the world thought that, the U.S. dollar was going to go down and the euro was going to be supreme and the Arabs were going to stop dumping the dollar and they're going to pick up the euro and start trading oil in euros. At the moment that happened was around 2010. And when that happened, all of a sudden the news came out about Greece and what Goldman Sachs had did. I think it was a ploy from the start. I think the euro basically was built to fail. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous if you understand anything about economics, how this works, Because if you're a nation state, you got to have the ability to inflate your currency and deflate your currency to go with the population and job growth. No one in Europe has that ability anymore. All that power is now with Brussels. So, I find it very ironic that the one country that rejected the European Union currency, Poland, was actually doing very well during the global recession. They were actually, I think, up 5 to 6% GDP-wise, where everyone else was down, and then all of a sudden their president died in a plane crash. What a coincidence.
Exactly. And also Poland was one of the countries that refused to do the vaccine for the pig flu, or what was it called, the swine flu.
Of course, H1N1. Now I want people to think about this because the global terrorists in the Illuminati, whatever the hell you want to call them, they basically use numerology in everything. Like, for instance, the 9/11 attacks, the two biggest events since the year 2000 hit was the 9/11 attacks, which happened on the 11th when the first flight, which was Flight 11, hit the World Trade Center, which looked like an 11 side by side. And the second biggest event, in my humble opinion, was Fukushima, because people still don't know what's going to happen because of that. And that happened on March 11th. So they like to put that 11 out there. Now, look at the swine flu. The vaccine was called H1N1. Look at the hidden 11. There's an 11. Why 1-1? Because they want to put that 11 in there. Another thing they like to put in there is the number 13. Now, if you use the Pythagoras system and you count numerology, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, you're going to figure out that H is the 8th letter and N is the 14th letter. So you add up 8, 1, 4 adds up to 13. Oh, that number 13 again. Whether it's, in movies, Ladder 49, 6 Days, 7 Nights, or sports, you have a team called the 76ers, a team called the 49ers, 4 and 9 is 13. They like to put that 13 out there. The Concordia, that ship that sunk in Italy, it sunk on the 13th. There were actually 13 decks on that ship, and every deck was named after a European nation. That, to me, signified right there that Euro was done.
Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating, Gary. I did an analysis of the $1 bill, the backside, and I found at least 11 references to 13. Some of them numerological, other one are simple counting references.
All you got to do is look at America started with 13 colonies. If you go to court, at least in the American court or British court, you have 1 judge and 12 jurors. 1 plus 12, again 13. The Federal Reserve banking system, which is an economic terrorist, has 12 regional banks in America and 1 main bank in Washington, D.C. Again, the 12 and 1, 13 structure. One thing I want people to understand is I believe there's a very good chance the Federal Reserve is going to be in a lot of trouble in 2013 because the Federal Reserve started in 1913. So, and the way I do it as a numerologist, I look at 99 or 9s or 90 as number of completion. So the Federal Reserve's banking system started, I believe, 12/26/1913. So when it becomes 12/26/2012, its 99-year charter will be up. So I expect a lot of problems with the Federal Reserve in 2013. Another thing to point out, the Concordia sunk in 2012. I expect a market crash in 2013. I expect a whole new financial system. Somehow the banksters are going to do something. They have to, because that's how the numerology game works. But if you look at that Titanic, the Titanic sunk in 1912. All of a sudden you have the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913. So I think the Concordia in the Titanic basically have a lot of symbolism between them. Because I think the year after, you're definitely going to have a big financial change.
So a kind of history that is repeating itself. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Always. Let me tell you something. If people don't know their history, they're doomed to repeat it. It's that simple.
Okay. Whoa. You have a list there, Gary. You have a paper in front of you because you know all those dates and details by heart.
I don't have any paper in front of me. It's all in my head.
Whoa. I'm really impressed there, my friend.
Yeah. If you honestly look at the Federal Reserve banking system, I find it very ironic that in 1912 you had the members of the Rothschild family, the Rockefeller family, and the Morgan family that met on Jekyll Island, and that's like an island right off the Carolina coast. And they met there in secret. Well, what I didn't understand is, why would they meet there in secret? They're the rich and powerful. Why would they meet there in secret? Well, the reason they met there in secret was because there were other rich and powerful people that were against the Federal Reserve banking system, mainly John Uster. John Uster was the richest man in America in 1911. 1912, he made his fortune off the fur trade. And at that time, he owned about, I believe, 40% of all the mortgages. 1 out of every 15 homes in America was owned by him. And he was against the Federal Reserve banking system mainly because it's not that he wasn't an economic terrorist, it's just he already had the market cornered. What the hell he need the Fed for? So the Rothschilds, they had to get rid of this guy because, basically what was happening was there's two sides were buying off all the politicians, for the Federal Reserve and against the Federal Reserve, and nothing was going to get accomplished. So the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers decided they had to get rid of this guy, but he's a very powerful person. You can't just kill people like that. So what happened is they decided they had to do something with this guy, and they had to make it look like an accident. What happened was in 1912, there was a big brand new ship, the unsinkable ship called the Titanic. And for some reason, everyone who was against the Federal Reserve banking system ended up on that ship. And everyone who was for it, for some reason, like the Morgan family, canceled at the last minute. So to me, the Titanic was a hit. It was to get rid of all the people who were against the Federal Reserve banking system. And what happened after the Titanic sunk? John Uster died. A lot of people who were against the Federal Reserve banking system died. The politicians, the political whores who were getting money to basically vote against the Federal Reserve banking system, the money dried up. And within a year, I think it took exactly 18 months, the Federal Reserve banking bill was passed. And then within 4 years, you had World War I, which is basically financed by the Federal Reserve banking system. So you have a lot of stuff that's basically connected, and people throughout history don't understand this. The Titanic was a hit.
So it was not an iceberg, but perhaps a torpedo.
I wouldn't say a torpedo. I would say it's more likely that the captain was a Freemason, and he was following orders.
And he was following orders to make an accident, to create to make an unsinkable ship sinking.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense because we know what happened.
If you understand how these bastards work, it makes perfect sense.
Whoa. I'm not sure. Do you also read channelings, Gary? Because a lot of channeling. Sorry.
Say that again.
There are a lot of channelings that are trying to explain to us that everything is under control and that the people who try to control this planet have already been defeated and things like that.
Of course. Give them hope. That's all it is. In America, you have a guy by the name of Ron Paul, and he's talking about down with the Fed, and he's supposedly for the people. In Europe, you have a guy by the name of Nigel something. He's from Britain, and he's always making some ruckus in the EU. And basically, what these people do is they're there to give people hope. Because if people have hope, they're not a cornered animal, and they won't pick up a gun and they won't do something about it. And as long as they have hope that something's going to happen, they won't fight back. And that's what the Illuminati and these Babylonian Brotherhood people understand very well. So what do? They're going to give them their champions. They're going to give them what I call controlled opposition. It's going to seem like this guy's a good guy. He wants to help. He has all the right intentions. But when it comes down to it, they're all controlled opposition. You cannot. All of these people who are channeling, who are telling the New World Order lost and all this, they're full of garbage. Now, can the New World Order ever win completely? No. Because the law of opposites will not allow them to win completely. But all this nonsense about, we're about to be in the new age and the Illuminati is going to be basically knocked out, that's all a whole bunch of nonsense. These people are very, very good at making evil look like a noble deed. They're very, very good at that. And what they do through multiculturalism, through gay rights, women's rights, is they basically make those issues look like noble deeds. But when it comes down to it, that's the stuff that destroys civilizations from within. And people have to do a lot of research, because if you don't understand where I'm coming from, you have terms called bigots, homophobes, sexist. You have little references like that make people want to shut up and not tell the truth. It's the same thing in the 1600s, where if you disagree with the church, you were called a heretic. And if you're called a heretic, oh my God, that's the end of the earth. You're a heretic. They could kill you. It's the same thing. They basically use political correctness as a weapon, and most people are enslaved by political correctness because they know what the problem is, but because of political correctness, they're not allowed to look at the solutions. Am I making sense?
You're making absolutely sense. Thank you very much for sharing this with me and the viewers, or the listeners, sorry. It reminded me, the start of your talk, is Obama also used the word hope frequently. I think it was his number one word in his campaign. But if we look back on what his government brought the United States, then I don't think there's a lot of much improvement.
Well, let's talk about Barack Hussein Obama, who's born 8/4/1961, 8/4/1961 after the 29/2/9/11. He became president of the United States when he was 47 years old. 4 and 7 make 11. He became president of the United States in 2009. 2009 makes 11. Even his freaking shoe size is 11. The reason they like picking puppets who are 11s is because 11s have a lot of charisma. Bill Clinton was 11. Tony Blair was an 11. John F. Kennedy was born on the 29th. These people who are born on the 11th, 29th, or 11th have a lot of charisma, and that's why the Illuminati picks these 11s as their puppets. Maybe they don't understand this, but the people who are pulling the strings, they do. Obama is a very likable guy if you just listen to him for the first time. This is definitely a guy you want to sit down and have a beer with. But when it comes down to it, he's a real piece of garbage. And let me explain why. He's a Marxist. There is absolutely no doubt about it. In Marxism, culturalism, cultural communism has been a failure every place it tried. So let me explain what Barack Obama does. Barack Obama goes on 5/1/2012. He goes from America to Afghanistan to make an unannounced speech. 5/1 is International Satanic Holiday, which is known as May Day. That's the same day last year that they came on TV at 11 o'clock at night and said they got Osama bin Laden on 5/1. On 5/1/1945, 66 years earlier, they said the same thing about Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, and we've never seen Adolf's body. We've never seen bin Laden's body, but they want to say they killed him on 5/1 because 5/1 is a satanic holiday, and they like to sacrifice. So they want to basically tell the world blood was sacrificed on that day. Now, when Barack Obama goes to Afghanistan and makes a speech on that day, that's International May Day, International Communist Day. The communist flag with the USSR was a hammer and a sickle. That has nothing to do with workers. That has everything to do with blood. And that's why the flag is red. It's draped in blood with the with the sickle and the hammer. That's exactly what communists do. They go out and they kill people. They take what isn't theirs. Now, Barack Obama announced his candidacy for president of the United States, for his re-election for president of the United States on 5/5/2012. Now, 5/5, which was exactly 9 days ago, happens to be Karl Marx's birthday. And he announces his candidacy on 5/5, a Saturday. I went throughout the record books. I have never found a president in the past 30 years that started his campaign on a weekend. But why did Barack Obama do it? Because it was Karl Marx's birthday. He's basically laughing in our face for the people who are aware of this. He's laughing at us. And another thing, do you know what his new campaign slogan is? It's not hope and change, because, that's what basically people have left in their pocket here in America, change after Obama. But what it is, it's Forward. That's his new slogan. And Forward is a book that Karl Marx wrote right after he wrote the Communist Manifesto. This guy's a communist to the core. And not only that, a lot of people think he's the first black president, which he is. But guess what? He's not the first gay president. I'll tell you that much.
Well, you're really going fast for me. You're now saying that Mr. Obama is a gay, is homosexual?
He's a homosexual to the core.
Okay.
People need to look up his stuff on the internet. There's so much stuff about a guy by the name of John Sinclair. who claims he was Obama's lover and was smoking crack cocaine with him in 1999 when he was a state senator. All of a sudden, this guy ends up dead. There's another guy who said he was Barack Obama's lover. He ends up being dead. The stuff's all over the internet. I mean, people have to ask themselves. You understand, when the liberals go into the schools and they took the schools over, they basically put the mindset that if you're against gay rights, that means you must be in the closet, as a way to basically brainwash people not to speak out. Well, what it actually is if you're really, really for this, then guess what? That's what you are. You are gay. Because if you're really pushing this issue, there must be something, or you must have some kind of ulterior motives. And Obama does. I think his whole wife is a show. Another thing, his kid left to a trip to Mexico, his 13-year-old kid with no parental supervision. His mom didn't go with him, and the dad was obviously busy being the president. His kid takes 12 friends and goes to a Mexican retreat. Why is she going there? Why is she going there with no mommy or no daddy at 13 years old? It makes you think that this guy doesn't give a damn about his family. It's all for show.
Yeah, clear. And it has everything to do with the so-called earthquake, I think.
Earthquake?
Yeah, because the day she was in Mexico, the earthquake was also there, or shortly after that.
That's something I didn't know. But, speaking of earthquakes, going back to the numerology bit for a second, because, if someone listens to me, they're going to think at this point, they're going to think I'm some right-winger. Believe me, I have no love for George W. Bush, too. George Bush and Barack Obama are cousins. They're both thieves. They just have, two different sides of the same coin. So I'm not some, Republican or, going, hey, GOP good, Democrat bad. They're both garbage parties, but it just happens to the Democrat is in the president's office right now, so I'm going after him. But, when you're talking about the 11, I think the scientific community is losing a lot of credibility. And the reason I think it's losing a lot of credibility is there's a lot of earthquakes that happen on the 11th. Example, January 11th last year, there was earthquakes in Brazil that caused mudslides, killed biggest natural disaster in Brazilian history. On 3/11 last year, there was a big earthquake in Fukushima. The big, on May 11th last year, there was a whole bunch of earthquakes in Spain. You can go down the list of this year. I believe it was 4/11. There was a huge earthquake in Indonesia. The scientific community really needs to look at why there's so many big. I'm not talking about small earthquakes. There's earthquakes every day. But the scientific community really needs to look into why there are so many earthquakes in such a large magnitude on 11 days. And until they do that, I have very little respect for people in that community because they don't get it. It all has to do with vibrational energy. Like, for instance, whenever it's the 22nd, you can expect maybe tornadoes. You can expect maybe hail-sized storms. But, on the 11th, 29th, you got to look out for those earthquakes. Another thing, I will not fly on a plane on the 11th and the 29th, or any day that adds up to an 11th. I won't do it, because even though there's 10,000 flights every day around there in the world, on the 11th it just seems a lot of planes. Well, it doesn't seem it's a fact. A lot of planes just happen to crash. Give you an example. Russia, 4/2/2011. There was a plane crash in Siberia. Russia, 4/20/2011. There's another plane crash. It gets to the point where whenever it's an 11 day, you almost get to expect this type of stuff. So my advice to people is, whether it's the 11th, the 29th, or whether it's a flight, like say the flight number is 191. Well, you shouldn't get on that flight because it could be trouble. I want people to look at the history of flight numbers that are called 191, whether there was a crash in Belgium or somewhere over Europe in 1986. So a whole bunch of crashes within America and Africa throughout the past 2 decades with flight number 191. Recently, there was a pilot who went absolutely insane on a JetBlue airline a couple of months ago, and that flight number was 191. So always got to watch out for flying in those 11s.
So what is then the meaning? Because to most people, the number 11 is the first master number, so to say.
Yes.
It's also double one, and it is 2. Can you explain your view on 11, both the good side and the negative side?
Well, before I start with 11, I need to talk about the 1 and the 2 a little bit.
Okay, good.
The 1 stands for male energy. People who are born on the 1st, 10th, 19th, 28th, whether they're male or female, they're going to be usually athletic. They're going to have a very argumentative attitude. For instance, a lot of women who are born on the 1st, 10th, 19th, 28th, they have a lot of male energy. They're usually in very good shape. They're usually the bosses in the relationship because it really doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you have that energy, it is what it is. The 1 energy is the aggressive energy, the alpha energy. The 2 energy is the passive energy, and that basically goes with the female perspective. Like, for instance, if a guy is born on the 2nd or the 20th, he's going to be a little bit more sensitive. He's going to be a little bit more diplomatic than most guys. Women who are born on the 2nd, 20th, they're just going to cry a lot. They're not going to be able to control their emotional energy from a perspective where it comes to crying or something like that. So men who are born on the 2nd would make for good leaders, but women born on the 1st, 10th, 19th, and 28th would. So this isn't a sexist thing. It just is what it is. Now, the 1 energy and the 2 energy, when they're combined, they form the 11 energy. Now, how do you know this? 11 times 11 is 121. So you have 1, 2, 1. So the 11 is a little bit more of a male energy, but with the people who have it, they can have a little bit of both. Now, what does the 11 give you? It gives you the charisma, the leadership ability from the 1, but it also gives you the sensitivity. It also gives you the diplomatic and emotional energy from the 2. So the 11 is a master number because it combines male and female energy into 1. 11s are the best athletes, period. People who are born on 11th, 29th, or who are 11 life paths in total, like the best basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan, who's born 2/17, 1963, 2/17, 1963, adds up to 29, 2 and 9 is 11. There's a lot of emotional energy there. And basically another thing about 11s is they're old souls. They've been around the block a few times. They've been reincarnated a few times. So, whenever you see that number 11, just expect a lot of emotional drama that day. And the best advice I have for people born on the 11th and 29th is control your emotional energy and don't let it control you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will take that advice to me, Gary, because, as you know, my number is 11. So, and
11s are very open to this type of information too.
Okay, yeah, that's in my case also true. And I've noticed in my previous life that emotional energies have been very strong, and I could not always handle them. And I'm now in a period in my life where I can deal with it a lot better, and that gives me a lot of more. Makes my life a lot easier, so to say. So
I bet. I mean, one thing when I was younger, before I got married, I noticed that the women who are born on the 11th, 29th, they got some kick-ass bodies. They got some very sexy bodies, but you don't want to deal with them because it's so much emotional drainage to deal with women who are born on 11th, 29th, because they could be happy one minute and start crying the next. It's absolutely insane with them.
Yeah, it's very dynamic, the emotional life of an 11, especially when they're young. Yeah.
Yes, it is 100% for sure.
Can we continue to 22 then? Perhaps we can do it in the same way. 22 is the second master number. It's a combination of 2 and 4. 22
is the second master number. What I found out is the 22 affects males and females a little bit differently, but let's start like this. 22 is the master builder, and if you look at any element on this earth that represents the number 22, it's water. Because water erodes things, water builds things, and that's what water, whether it's ice, it's unbreakable, or whether, it breaks the rocks within it when it forms ice, water is just a 22 element. Now, people who are born on the 22nd, they're what we call the master builders because whether it comes from websites to architects, they're very good at building and organizing people around them. They have a great ability to do that. It's also they have if they work hard, they will have a good amount of financial success. Besides the 28, I think the 22 is a very, very good number when it comes to financial success. One talent that the 22s have is they're the best medians. in life. Like 11s and 7s, they have somewhat psychic abilities. But 22s can actually talk to the other side. They can talk to spirit. There's a lot of people who I've done readings for born on the 22nd, and they will swear in a stack of Bibles that they can actually speak to dead people or speak to spirits. And I'm telling you as a fact that people born on the 22nd, they have that ability. They have the, when there was a movie called The Sixth Sense, where, where a kid, could talk to dead people. Why? I can guarantee you if that was in real life, that kid would be born on the 22nd. A lot of people who are born in 22nd are insane. That's why, locked up in a padded wall because people don't believe them. They think they're insane. Or, in all honesty, 22s really do have that ability. Women, not so much men, but women born on the 22nd, I found it very intriguing that the top 3 female bodybuilders of all time were all born on the 22nd. And if you look at the 2 is a very feminine energy, but the 22 is going to put a lot of masculinity in that too. So women born on the 22nd, the 11s do stay in shape. The 11s can be in great shape. The 22s, especially if they're women, not so much men, what I've noticed is bodybuilders who are men, they have a lot of 4s around them. They're born on the 4th or they're 4 life paths. But the women, it's always the 22. I mean, the 11s are always in good shapes, but the 22, they just take it to a whole different level.
Okay.
And that makes perfect sense if you understand what the 22 stands for, master builder. That would make perfect sense for a bodybuilder to have that number.
Okay, great. Do you by any chance know the birth date of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
He's a 4.
He's a 4, yeah. That's what I was expecting because of what you said. Okay.
Oh, dude, I checked all these stuff out. He's a 4. When I go down the list and I look for birthdays, the best of the best, and they usually, whatever sport they're in, they usually have the same numbers.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, and then 33, I think 33 is a special number for you too, Gary?
I've noticed that 33s just know a lot of stuff, man. They're just, I won't call them the smartest. I won't call them, they just know stuff. They're just born with wisdom. I don't want to sound cocky because that is my number, but I just know that the people who are born with those 33s, they just put stuff together. They can see things that, and connect the dots that other people can't. Like for instance, one of my buddies who's born in 1948, he's a 33. Well, he doesn't, do the numerology and stuff like me, but he will dissect the banking system and how these corporate banksters steal money. He will break it down to a T for you. He understands every process. He will explain how derivatives work. So, what I've just noticed is, the 33s, they just can read between the lines a lot better than other people. 33s are also what you call the master teachers. They're the teachers of teachers. Other teachers go to them to learn. Like, for instance, I have other numerologists and astrologers who book readings with me when they have questions to ask because I'm the one they go to. I've talked to, since I really started going heavy and giving people readings about 3 years ago, I could say there's about probably 10 people right now. I've probably given thousands of readings, but there's probably 10 students I've had that could probably go out into the public and give people readings, and they'll probably think they're the best thing since sliced bread. It's a skill that can be learned. Yes, there are some people with some birthdays who are better at it than others because they're more open-minded to it because their brains tick a little bit differently. But in all honesty, it's not like being psychic. It's not like being a medium. You can learn numerology and astrology. You just gotta put in the time. And, even though I'm really good at this, it took me a good amount of time to get this good.
Can we break down the 33 because it's both 3, double 3, and that gives 6. But the 3, as you say, 1 is the male, 2 is the female, and 3 is the child. So the 33 is very curious and is always eager to learn and playful. Is that true?
I won't say playful. George W. Bush was a 33, and he didn't look too playful to me. But the 33 is basically the combination of the 11 and the 22 into one. It has the 11s and the 22's ability, and just manifests it into a teaching mode. 33s are here to teach, and a negative 33 could be one of the worst people on earth. Look at George W. Bush. He was born 7/6/1946. He caused a lot of death and destruction on this planet. Or a 33 could be like Mother Teresa, who was a 33 and just helping all the time. The one thing you have to understand is 33s have a great influence around people around them. That's the main thing about 33s. You can say they have this gift or that gift, but their main gift is changing people's outlook on life. Like, for instance, when people can argue about things, and be a big believer in things all their life, but, if they talk to me, I'll break down their birthday in such a way where they'll be like, oh my God, how the hell does this guy know that? And then they'll be able to listen to me from my perspective, or from what I know, and I have a greater ability to change people's outlooks on life because I'm a 33 than most other people do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. And I'm flabbergasted with what you know. I've said it before, but you give a lot of readings, Gary, yeah? Because I try to contact you, but most of the time you're busy. So can you give us a clue about how much time you spend on giving readings on numerology?
Well, people call me up for, 30-minute readings, 45-hour-minute readings. I do a few of those a day. Then I have my students who actually want to learn numerology, and then my basic course on Chinese astrology lasts from 2 to 3 hours. Then you have my advanced numerology course where I teach people, and that basically not about what just the numbers mean, but how the numbers are compatible with each other. That basically gives you a good definition of who you get along with, who you don't. If you're single, who to look for a good mate. And, that basically takes about 5 hours, and I split those sessions in like 3 1.5 to 2 hour sessions. So, I am fairly busy. Like, right after we get done, I have to talk to one of my students for an hour and a half. We're going to be going through advanced numerology classes. So, I wouldn't say I'm, busy where I do 10 hours a day worth of this stuff, but every day I'm on, Skype for at least 3 to 4 hours doing this.
And you mostly do have visitors or customers from the United States, or do you also customers from...
Australia, Japan, Russia. It kind of helps with Russia because I speak Russian. But mostly it's the U.S. or Canada. But, the UK is another big one. A lot of people from the UK contact me, even though I trash their government every chance I get. If there's one country I can't stand on this planet, it's the UK government. That government I cannot stand. They're the most hypocritical, liberal bastards on this damn planet. Do you know if you write something on Twitter and it offends someone, the British government can now put you in jail over it?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised, to be honest.
The British government absolutely sickens me. And I wish they would put me on the ban list of Britain with Michael Savage, because I could never go to that country. I would rather go to China, because China at least doesn't pretend it's a free country. You know where you stand in China. You have no rights. In British, they want to talk about, going and spreading democracy by, bombing Libya. But, all of a sudden, when it comes to their country, there's no free speech. I believe Britain is the biggest terrorist state on the goddamn planet.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Gary.
No, I'm being damn serious.
Yeah, I'm damn too. Yeah.
Terrorist state. And I swear I would go to the UN and ask for a no-fly zone over Britain. Those people are insane. Especially the government, not the people, the government.
The current, the guy in France who got the most votes is very hard on the wording against United Kingdom, especially why they continuously protect the banks in the city of London.
The 1 square mile of the city
exactly.
of London, the 1 square mile that actually has more financial worth than all of Washington, D.C. and New York City together. So that's where the Rothschild banking empire is.
Exactly, yeah, but it's now in the open because the the guy who won in France is openly talking about that. So I think it's really great that people start to see it.
Not in the open right now. What it is it's time to end the game, and it's time to go to a cashless currency, or it's time to go to a credit system where all the currency's on the credit card, and see, it's that time in the game where they got to destroy the institutions that they've had in power for the past 100, 200, 300 years. It's just a new point in the game where they got to reset how, they steal money. There's nothing good that's happening. The guy in France is a puppet like everyone else.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. For the listeners, if you are interested in all the things Gary have said, but you are not able to follow it very easily, just go to pateo.nl and then click on Pateo Academia. There you see on the third from above, the name of Gary, and also his website, GaryTheNumbersGuy.net, and there you can also find his contact address. I'm just making a little bit effort for you, Gary. So,
I appreciate it. Well, if people want to contact me, they can just Google Gary the Numbers Guy or email me, GaryTheNumbersGuy@gmail.com. If you want a reading, everything's on my website. It is what it is, and what I can tell people is, this might seem cocky, but after talking to me for an hour, I can promise you your perspective on life will always change a little bit.
Okay, so perhaps you get a lot of customers now from the Netherlands, and maybe other listeners as well. We'll see about that.
There's only one country I've never got someone. Only one big country I never got anyone, because I've had people from Mexico. The only big country I haven't had people contact me from is China.
Okay.
That's the one.
Well, I'm not sure.
A funny thing is, in 2010, I had someone from Japan contact me, and their English wasn't too good, but they basically said, listen, I'm thinking, should I live in America or should I live in Japan? And I was like, what's your birthday? And I was like, okay. And they're like, well, I have an apartment in Japan. I'm like, what's the apartment number? She's like, 11. I'm like, sell it and get the hell out of there. You don't want anything to do with 11 apartments. Anything to do with apartment that adds up to 29, 38, 47. And then Fukushima happened, so she was very happy about me giving her the good advice because she was right by that. Another thing is, like, for instance, I live in an apartment. I live in an apartment, but it's kind of like / condominiums apartments. They're very large in size. And the apartment underneath me is the only 11 apartment in the whole goddamn building. It's apartment 38. And I swear to God, there's workers going in and out of that apartment every single week. There's something wrong in that apartment. The bathtub is clogged, or there's some drainage problem. There's always some problems in that freaking apartment. No other apartment around it has any problems with anything, except they're always going to that apartment. And these guys are asking the other day, like, why is it always this apartment? And I'm looking at the address, and I'm like, 38. I don't tell them anything. I just laugh.
But there's a lot of data mining going on with the insurance companies. They must be able to see a kind of pattern.
They don't see anything. These people are morons. They don't know what to look for.
Yeah, probably you're right, because it would have been in the open by now otherwise.
I mean, if they actually knew what the hell they look for, believe me, they'd be teaching this stuff in schools. They don't know anything. The only people who use this is the elites with the planned terrorist attacks, and the people like me and you who understand this, at enough in the level where we could use this in our everyday lives. Most people think this stuff is a joke. They think it's a coincidence. And, in all honesty, I used to try to convince people. Now I could give a damn less if you believe in this or not, because I know it's a fact. This stuff works 100%. And if someone says it doesn't, it's only because the practitioner hasn't figured it out to 100% level. Like, for instance, I'd like to say that my readings are about 90% accurate. And most people would say that too. Most people would say I'm 90% accurate. I would never say I'm 100 because I'm not God. Mm-hmm. And only someone at that level could understand numerology, because there's still some things I don't understand about numerology, and I've been hitting the books on this intensely for 10 years.
Okay, impressive. Can we have a little bit, about 5 minutes left, Gary. Can we go to the number 44? Because a friend of mine is 44, and I gave him a little bit of reading myself, but I'm really curious what your opinion is about the master
44,
number 44.
44 is the number of the general. the number of the military leader, the number of the preacher. A lot of people, 44 is a very uncommon number, but there was a 44, I believe, General Patton, in the U.S. Army in World War II. I believe he was, I could be wrong, but I believe he was a 44. And what I've noticed in that number is people have a very like a militaristic approach to life, very hardworking and very karmic. They do anything bad, it comes right back to them, just like any 8 number. The 44 would probably be the leader in a general. That's what you basically look for 44. When you look at the 44, you look at the general, you look at someone like the Pope, you know, someone who's very religious, materialistic type of life. That's what I look for in the 44s. Also, 44s, they gotta work hard in life, and that's not even, you know, that's no joke. A lot of times, people who are 4s are not 44s. 4s aren't cops, are military officers. But the 44 would probably be, you know, the general, the police chief. You know, anything to do with the main guy who's in control of the law and order.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. The guy I know, he was very successful in what he did, but he wanted to quit because he didn't want to continue that kind of lifestyle. And now he has enough money to retire, and he's very young, so he worked extremely hard, yeah. So it's a really nice, but he's, yeah.
Now, the number 55, before we have a little bit of time, I have seen, first of all, the only way you're going to be born in 55 is if you're born 11/22 in 1993, in 1984, 1975. So those are very, very rare birthdays. But what I have seen from the 5 people I've met, or maybe 3 people I've met who were born 11/22, 1984, or 1975, if they're girls, they're going to be extremely good looking. I mean body, face. I mean, you're talking about extremely good looking models. But one thing I've also noticed about people who are 5'5s, when just, you know, if you take the beauty part out, is they tend to just live life on an everyday basis. They don't really think too far ahead. You know, they're there to have fun. They're there to live the life they want to, and if you try to suppress their freedom in any way, they're gone. They don't follow the rules too well. You know, the 4 is about the rules, the 5 is about breaking the rules. You know, these people, you can expect them to be fanatics, at least at something in their life, whether it be sports, whether it be, you know, being highly sexual. A lot of women who are born on the 5th, 14th, 23rd, they have a lot of sexual energy. Well, the women born on the 55, I mean, you're talking about like someone like Cleopatra, good looking and with a huge ass sex drive. So there's not that many type of people who are with that who are around. So, you know, it's not a very common number. There's no 66s. There's no 77s in birthdays. So, you know, the 55s are far in between. But if you do see a 55, you're going to know right away because they're going to be extremely good looking. You know, it's amazing. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. You know, when I was a kid, I wanted to know why some people were good looking. I wanted to know why some people were athletic. I wanted to know why some people were smart. I wanted to know why some people were rich. And I figured it all out through numerology. All the answers are honestly there. It's honestly that simple. I'm not BSing for 1 second. Like, for instance, the richest people in the world are born on the 28th. How do I know this? Because 3 of the 5 richest people in the world are born on the 28th. Carlos Slim, Bill Gates, and Mr. Ortega in France. Michael Dell, Steve Jobs, their birthdays add up to 28. Apple was incorporated on the 28th day. It's the richest cash-rich company in the world. The guy at Facebook, Zuckerberg, he turns 28 years old today. Guess what? His IP is about to sell for about $100 billion. So he's about to be rich as hell, and it happens when he's 28 years old. Come on, people, put this stuff together. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, that's true. And 28 makes 1, and so they're all number 1 in a certain way.
And there you go.
Yeah. Okay, it has been very fascinating to talk to you, Gary.
Anytime for you. Anytime.
Yeah, and this radio is mostly meant for people to become affiliated or at least aware of the power of numerology. And I think that you've done a marvelous job by giving so many examples. And
here's the difference. There are not that many numerologists like me. Most numerologists are boring as hell to listen to. They know nothing about world history. They know nothing about sports, so they can't give you the examples I do. I was a historian before I did this. I was a math buff before I did this. So, I actually had some examples of what the hell I was doing. But it is what it is. And that numbers do not lie. They're everywhere. They do not lie. They have meaning. And if you are wise enough, you're going to study and figure out what the meanings are. If not, hey, you can live your life without numerology. But I actually like to know why things work the way they do. I like to have the answers. If you don't care, then ignorance is bliss, and God bless you. Do whatever you want. Not me. I gotta know.
Great. Thank you very much for being our guest today, Gary. People who want to know more about Gary, just Google on Gary the Numbers Guy, and you will find him very easily. You can also find him on Skype if you do the same thing. So that's very great. Thank you for listening, everybody. And in 2 weeks' time, we have another guest. That guest will come from New Zealand, and we'll talk about the planet Saturn. Thank you very much, and hopefully until the next time. Bye-bye.
The planet Saturn, huh?
Saturn. What did I say? Sorry.
Saturn. Yeah, that covers Capricorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that stuff too. But thanks for having me on the show, my friend.
You're very welcome. Thank you also. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There's a reason for my teaching, even though I can't explain. More than a dream that you are reaching, more than a laugh that shadows all the pain. A special meaning in the thorn of dreams, in the garden where a thought can blind me. 'Cause I am lost here, where it never gleams, where I found that I screamed so blindly, yeah. Until I rise up, fall down. Is this the reason that I can't feel the ground? Am I waiting for my tomorrow, or should I say goodbye? Yeah. Well, am I walking with a purpose? 'Cause I feel the same. And as I wait for my dreams to surface, as I wait I'm drowning in the rain. Just when I thought that it was over, I lost my grip and I hit the wall. A simple dream that I tripped over. Now I have to wake up to my fall, until I rise up, fall down. Is this the reason that I can't feel the ground? Am I waiting for my tomorrow, or should I say goodbye? Yeah.
Dit is Ergens Over Radio.